Like dancers in a frozen ballet, small, elegant craft glide effortlessly across the surface of Deep Creek Lake in Garrett County. Their narrow blades cutting graceful arcs into the January ice. This is iceboating, a cold weather sport with roots in Northern Europe that somehow found its way south of the Mason Dixon line to Maryland.
When we go to regattas, our trailer says Deep Creek, Maryland Iceboat Fleet. And all the guys from Minnesota and Michigan and stuff, they're like, Maryland? Maryland doesn't have ice. It's like, we got ice.
Ray Gauthier has been sailing on Deep Creek for 18 years, mostly in the warmer months. But in 2012, his wife, Joni Palmer, surprised him with one of these.
It's a sailboat. It has a sail and a mast and a boom, and we still call it a boat. What makes it different are the ice skates. I got hooked by the iceboating bug really bad.
So bad that he earned himself a new nickname.
For Deep Creek Lake, I'm the Iceman.
Today, Ray is living up to that title, spreading the gospel of winter sailing to an iceboating novice. Pilot John Chambers of Virginia.
There we go.
This will be my first experience. I'm very excited to give it a try.
There you go. Right. That's it.
John is learning the ropes on Ray's boat, a popular model called a DN.
If you need to.
Not long ago, this was the only iceboat on the lake.
I would call up my friends and I'd say, hey, you got to try this. This is really fun. They would come out, they would sail it one time. They'd say, where do I buy one? Go! Woo! So now, 4 years later, we're the largest growing DN fleet in the world, and we've got 19 DNs here.
The appeal is easy to understand.
All of us sailors, we spend our lives sailing at 6 to 10 miles an hour. These boats here, this tiny little 12-foot boat with this tiny little sail, they have clocked them at 88 miles an hour.
Up to 4 times the wind speed, because unlike in water, there isn't much friction to slow things down.
The iceboat is the closest thing to a perpetual motion machine as you can get. It sails by the wind it feels. So it feels wind and it goes fast. Feels fast wind, goes faster, feels faster wind, goes faster, feels faster wind. Faster, 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 until, poof, you go in a flash of light.
Provided that conditions are right, which doesn't happen all that often. Over the past 2 winters, the Deep Creek Ice Fleet has only ventured out onto the lake once. But so far, 2018 is shaping up to be a much more action-packed year.
Look at this. I can't tell you how many weekends we say it doesn't get any better than this.
One of Ray's primary duties as Deep Creek's resident iceman is monitoring the conditions of the lake throughout the winter.
Put our little stick in there. This guy hooks the bottom of the ice. And 9 inches. Here on Deep Creek, our rule is we want 6 inches of new ice.
Another consideration is wind speed. Too slow, and it's hard to get going. Too fast, and sailing can be risky.
Nobody wants to crash at 60 or 70 miles an hour in a little boat like this.
Then there's the variations in ice quality.
Just like Eskimos that have 21 words for snow, we have lots of words for ice.
Today's ice is something called orange peel.
And so if you look up towards the sun, you'll see it looks just like the peel of an orange. Orange peel ice is good sailing ice. We should get our sails up and give it a try before the breeze dies.
Most of the ice boats on Deep Creek are DNs like Ray's, but not all of them. One of the most unique vessels, built by local sailor John Mandrick, harkens back to the earliest days of iceboating.
Iceboating really began around 1650, back in the Netherlands. There was an ice age that occurred. It's called the Little Ice Age. All their lakes and canals froze, which is where they had transportation.
So they attached runners to a sailboat, and the iceboat was born. These early iceboats probably looked a lot like John's boat, a Dutch ice yacht replica called the Rainbow Crow.
If you look at the old pictures of those sailing in the Netherlands, there are 4, 5, 6, sometimes 8 people in the boat having a party together. And that's partly why I like it. I can take my grandchildren and sail on a beautiful lake like this.
Iceboating likely arrived in the U.S. in the early 19th century. Here in Western Maryland, it's been around off and on since at least the 1950s. But perhaps the biggest moment in Maryland iceboating history took place on the opposite end of the state in 1977.
There was a big storm that came up the East Coast. What it did is it dumped snow on the whole Northeast, and they had scheduled the World Championships in the DNs.
But with snow blanketing the rivers and lakes of the North, organizers had to look south to find a site for the annual World Championships.
They called around and they found ice on the Miles River.
Starting line was right here about mid-river. One lap of the course was probably 3 miles.
Michael Keene is one of a small group of Eastern Shore sailors who eagerly awaits the coldest days of winter, when the tidal waters of the Chesapeake freeze over and the iceboats come out of storage. Michael doesn't have an iceboat of his own. Instead, he uses this one, an old DN that area resident Diana Motz bought 41 years ago, just in time to compete in the World Championships.
So here's Diana sitting on her boat that she bought specifically for the Worlds. It's kept here at the house in the garage, and I get to use it.
But not only did Diana compete in the 77 Worlds, she's a big part of why they were held here in St. Michael's.
In 1977,
That's a big one.
Diana, new to the area here in St. Michael's, was good friends with Larry Klein, famous sailor.
And the man responsible for finding a location for the championship races.
And Larry kept calling Diana, and
Diana had to go out on the ice and test it.
It did.
She gave the okay. The iceboaters from Canada and around the world came here to the Miles River.
some of the boats that got brought here specifically for the Worlds kind of stayed here and have been here ever since. So whenever we have ice here, we get them out of the barns and garages and put them together and head out on the ice.
It doesn't happen often.
Sometimes we'll get back-to-back years, sometimes we'll go 3 years without ice.
But when it does,
The acceleration, the efficiency of the wind, it's just incredible. There's really nothing else to compare it to.
it's more than worth the wait. As for Deep Creek's rookie iceboater, John, it looks like iceboat fever may have claimed its newest victim.
Woohoo! What a rush!
Fully gonna be purchasing one of these maybe today.